Her book club played jazz, and he knew all her favorite notes. The first thing I noticed was the umbrella. It leaned, arrogant and glossy, by our entryway mirror, black canopy, lacquered hook, a silver band etched with initials that didn't belong to either of us. Although it smelled faintly of cedar and expensive rain. My wife, Lena, blew past it with her hair pinned in the messy twist she uses when she wants to look like she hasn't tried. She kissed my cheek, lip balm and something smoky, and said, "Book club ran long. I'm going to shower. I feel like I've been dipped in saxophone." "Books do that to you?" I asked. But she was already down the hall, leaving a trail of laughter that sounded nothing like paper. We met in a record store, so I know what sound does to a person. It pulls them a little forward, turns their neck, opens a door inside. The Lena I married loved R&B and crime novels and the way late-night radio hosts talked as if the world were a secret they liked and didn't want to keep. The Lena who came home that night, neck glowing, perfume new, umbrella not ours, smiled like she was borrowed. Our apartment is on the second floor of a brownstone with a stubborn elevator and paint that insists on calling itself cream. I teach history at the high school 3 blocks over. My handwriting on the board is a neat betrayal of how my brain actually works. Messy, hopeful, always arriving late to its own theories. On Wednesdays, Lena goes to book club, which I have never attended because it's only girls and wine and gossip. You'd hate it. I didn't hate the idea of her having a life I wasn't required to curate. I did, however, hate the umbrella. We have a calendar above the coffee maker. Wednesdays have tiny wine glass doodles Lena draws in red marker. Last Wednesday, there was an extra dot, smaller and tucked into the corner of the square like a secret period. I blew on my coffee and asked nothing because men who ask too soon end up with data and no context. I found context on our shared tablet where her ride receipts sit in polite rows. The last 3 Wednesdays ended at the same place, Murmur. It's a jazz bar with velvet banquettes and a stage the size of a bedroom tucked behind a pawn shop that sells gold like medicine. The address glowed on the screen like a scold. The time stamps hurt more: 10:07, 10:32, 11:01. Book clubs don't end in odd minutes, performances do. The next Wednesday, I told Lena I had a department meeting and stayed late grading essays that all insisted Caesar refused the crown, ironically, which says more about our sense of humor than history. At 9, I walked to Murmur because curiosity is cheaper than regret when you pay in advance. The bar was a low-lit room with a heartbeat. Candles breathed along the tables. The singer leaned on the microphone like it knew secrets. The bass player throbbed under everything, the way good intentions do. Waiters moved like they were paid per whisper. I slid into a shadow and ordered something with ginger to keep my hands busy. She came in wearing a silk dress the color of an apology you want to accept. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, which is her way of saying tonight counts. She looked around without looking guilty. With her was a man who could make a scarf look strategic. Clean suit, touch of cologne that went to college abroad, a watch that told time and opinion. He put a hand on the small of her back, the little lighthouse of a married woman, and guided her to a table near the stage. When he laughed, it rolled a bit too much toward possession. The singer noticed them. Singers notice everything. She had a voice like a late-night DJ, warm and a little dangerous, the kind you trust even as it dares you. Between songs, she gave the man a look that was not friendly. Then she caught me watching and tipped her chin. I didn't know her. She seemed to know me anyway. I told myself I could leave. I didn't. 2 songs later, while the drummer brushed twilight across a snare, Lena leaned in and said something into the man's shoulder. He answered by tucking a wisp of hair behind her ear. It is a small gesture, that tuck. It is also a thesis statement. I stood. My body had decided before my brain finished drafting a resolution. I would have walked straight to their table if the singer hadn't intercepted me below the lip of the stage. Up close, she was older than I thought and much prettier. The kind of pretty that looks like it came with instructions nobody reads. "Don't do anything you can't live with," she said, soft and very close. "Do you know me?" I asked, because it sounded like a line you only give to people whose middle names you learned as children. "I know him," she said, glancing at the man with the practiced disgust of a woman who has mopped up after the charming. "Laurent Oakes, the letters on the umbrella he leaves like business cards." I stared. The silver band flashed across my mind like a siren. "He brings women here when he wants to feel like he invented romance," she continued. "He leaves umbrellas because he's never without a spare and he cannot imagine rain ruining him. I sent one back once with a note. I own weather too." Her smile was small and mean and earned. "Are you the husband?" "Yes," I said, because I didn't have the energy to invent a softer word. "Sit in the back," she told me. "We'll play something slow so you can think before you turn your life into a movie." Then, almost as an afterthought, "I'm Naomi, by the way. If you need to breathe, meet me by the blue door after the set. You'll find it." The band slid into a ballad that sounded like a promise made in a car at 3 a.m. Lena's face softened the way faces do when a song you love walks into the room. Lawrence's hand rested on the table, fingers spread, patient. When Lena's hand landed on top of his, she looked down at it like a word in another language she had decided meant her. He rubbed his thumb along her knuckles. She closed her eyes. I wanted to be the kind of man who could say, "We can fix this." I wanted to be the kind of man who could snap a picture with my phone for evidence and then never look at it. Mostly I wanted to be anywhere my stomach wasn't, which was apparently the floor beneath Murmur. I found the blue door near the restrooms, soft and scuffed. Naomi appeared as if she'd been summoned by my posture. Up close, the stage light still lived on her skin. She smelled like citrus and stage dust. "I don't think I can do the gentlemanly thing," I said. "Then do the human thing," she countered. "Decide who you are before you decide what you'll say." She looked toward the room. "They haven't left yet. He always insists on staying until the encore because that way the night feels like it belonged to him. Walk home. Or wait. But don't drag your heart across the floor because the floor won't thank you." "We share rent," I said, "and a season of a show we're pretending to like. I thought that meant something." "It does," she said gently. "It means you know the boring parts are holy. People like Laurent don't believe in boring." Her hand hovered near my arm, then rested there without asking, like permission had been given by gravity. It was nothing. It was everything. Warmth moved up my sleeve and reminded me I had a body that wasn't just a container for indignation. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. "Because I wish someone had helped me the year I fell for a man who liked applause," she said. "Because you look like you'd apologize to furniture if you bumped into it. And because you didn't take a picture." She lifted a shoulder. "That counts for more than you think." "I could kiss you," I said, exhausted enough to tell the truth about the way kindness reads as seduction when you're drowning. "You could," Naomi said, amused. "But then you'd be the man who kissed the singer while his wife held hands 5 tables away. Choose a better plot." I laughed then, and the sound startled me. I went back to my shadow and finished my ginger drink like it was an assignment. When Lena and Laurent finally rose, the room pretended not to see. They didn't touch beyond the easy choreography of people who have practiced not looking like they're touching. Outside, under the awning, he held open an umbrella. L.O. gleamed at me from the silver band. He handed it to her like a dare. She took it like a gift she hadn't earned. I walked home. The rain had found its courage. Drops stitched my jacket to my shoulders, baptized me into a club membership I hadn't paid for. At our apartment, I put Lawrence's umbrella next to the umbrella that had grown up with us, the one we bought when we were broke and found on YouTube how to fix a bent rib with a spoon. I boiled water for tea because hot things make choices steadier. When I heard Lena's key, I placed 2 mugs on the table like lawyers. She looked at the umbrella. She looked at me. She didn't try to erect the scaffolding of lies that would hold only as long as I wanted to believe it deserved a permit. She leaned a hip against the counter and let her breath go. It sounded like a tire giving up. "His name is Laurent," she said. "He donated a ridiculous sum to the library project and charmed the board and wears scarves like punctuation." I told myself it was harmless to let him make me feel like a painting with a good caption. "And the caption was," I asked. "You're wasted on a life you curated before you knew what you wanted," she said, disgust and longing tearing something even as she said it. "He knew all the notes to play. I didn't sleep with him." She looked at me long enough to make the rest of the sentence matter. "We kissed. Twice. The second time I didn't stop fast enough to still like myself afterward." The kettle ticked. I poured water and watched the tea stain it like a secret spreading. Lena walked around the table and stood close, near enough that I could see the tiny freckle inside her left eye. I'd forgotten it ever felt special to notice. "I don't want him," she said. "I want the feeling of being new, and I hate that I let him be the person who reminded me what that felt like." She reached to touch my wrist and paused a millimeter above my skin, asking permission without saying it. I let her hand land. It was warmer than the mug. "I saw you," I said, "at Murmur." Her mouth flinched like I'd pulled a thorn that wasn't there. "Okay," she said, swallowing. "Do you want me to leave tonight or in the morning?" "I want you to tell me the truth in our kitchen," I said. "Not as a punishment, as CPR." She laughed wetly. "CPR isn't sexy." "Neither is breathing until it's gone," I said. We sat. The rain worked its way down the window and spoke fluent Morse. She told me things I could live with and a few I couldn't. I told her about Naomi and the blue door, and the way a hand on my sleeve felt like a lifeline I hadn't asked for. Neither of us dramatized it beyond the ordinary theater of 2 people who have to look at themselves, while the person they love does the same. When we ran out of confessions, we drank tea that had gone cold and held the mugs because we didn't know yet where to put our hands otherwise. "Do you want to fix this?" I asked finally. She nodded immediately, then hesitated, then nodded again like a student catching up to the right answer after remembering what the question was. "Yes," she said, "but I don't want to pretend we didn't break it for a while." "Fair," I said. "Rules." "No more Murmur," she said. "No meetings that feel like auditions. If I need new, I ask you to take me somewhere we've never been, even if it's just to the roof. And if I want to kiss a singer, because she told me the truth at the door." "Then you bring me to hear her sing," Lena said, smiling without humor but with something else. "Resolve's softer sister." And we clapped so loudly the men with scarves scowl. We slept badly that night because honesty does not tuck you in. It stands in the doorway and watches. In the morning, she put Lauren's umbrella outside with a note in block letters. "Return to weather." I washed our old umbrella with dish soap and a dish towel until it looked like it remembered us. We went a Murmur the next week together. We sat in the back, held hands like teenagers pretending not to, and didn't order anything stronger than club soda because we wanted to know we meant it. Naomi saw us and raised an eyebrow that asked more questions than my students manage in a semester. During a break, she came to our table and took us in with one sweep of her gaze. The linked fingers, the humbled posture, The way Lena's dress had sleeves that could forgive. "Good evening," she said, cool as a practice note. "Thank you," I said, a little too sincerely. "For what?" she asked. "The song, the weather, or the restraint?" "Yes," I said, and Lena squeezed my hand so hard the joints remembered they had jobs. After the second set, Naomi sang something tender enough to bruise. When she held the last note, I felt Lena breathing, and for a moment the bar disappeared and we were in the record store the year we met, arguing about B-sides, her hair in a long braid I wanted to tug to see if it came with a bell. On the walk home, the air smelled like city and lemons. We stopped under nothing and kissed like apologies that wanted to become promises without changing any nouns. YouTube would have allowed it without a warning. My heart did not require one. We didn't take it further, not that night, not for reasons that sound like rules but were actually just patience. We went upstairs and made pasta and ate it too hot, laughing when the steam fogged my glasses. When she leaned against the counter, it was my hand that found the small of her back, and it felt like discovering that a switch you thought was broken was actually wired to a softer light. Lena wrote a letter to the board resigning from a committee Laurent chaired. She wrote another one to herself. She taped it inside the kitchen cabinet where we keep the spices. It begins, "I will not audition for my own life." It ends, "Ask him for a date before you ask a stranger for a compliment." We've been on 7 dates since then. Some were as boring as a grocery list. One included a museum where a painting made us stand foolishly close while a docent explained the artist's midlife crisis. That night we went home and kissed on the couch like we were made of the sort of kindness that costs sweat. Another date was on our roof, under a blanket, drinking ginger tea, nomming constellations wrong on purpose. We touched more, we slept better, we spoke with the kind of careful that isn't afraid. I still think about Naomi sometimes, the way her hand steadied my sleeve, the way she refused the easy tragedy of being the other escape. If life were a movie, she and I would have met again and made a different kind of trouble. Instead, she sings. We listen. When she sees us at the back table, she nods once. It is the exact right amount of intimacy for strangers who traded weather and walked away dry. Last night, Lena came home damp from a real book club. Someone had chosen a novel full of punctuation and women arguing about commas like they were politics. She hung up our old umbrella, kissed me hello, and said, "I like us." I said, "Me too," and we stood there a moment, the boring part glowing. The umbrella with the silver initials never came back. Sometimes rain has better manners than men.